Hi, John. Welcome
Yep.
to the Lew Perspective.
Right.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
We want to get jumping here and talk about some of the latest things that are going on in the news this
Yeah.
week.
Just our current events and
Yes,
what we think of, well, what we think,
what's going
what's
on?
going on, and what's
Kind of
how can
our
we?
view on
Yeah.
things here. I know the latest is the job reports. That's
Yes.
been sort of at the top of the list of things
Yeah.
that are going on. And so the numbers came out, I think, and the
They
administration
did.
was not happy
Yeah.
with what was dictated as
Yeah.
job
So just
reports.
quickly, what we've got non-farm payroll growth totaled 73,000 for July. So it's above the June total of 14,000, but below the estimate
Expected.
gain
Okay.
of 100,000.
They were looking for
So they were
100,000.
looking for 100, they got 73. And then you want to layer in the other facts is that June and May totals were revised lower than what they were by a combined 258,000.
Okay.
So that net, what's that net? So it was like, what was that, 14,000 or something like that for June and 19,000 for May.
So what were they expecting? What was it?
So
The
June,
numbers were?
yeah, June was previously stated at 147,000 and they came in at 14. So, I mean, that's outrageously big.
Wow.
Like it doesn't seem realistic.
Okay.
Why are we reporting such a high number and then 2 months later reporting it down by what is that, 90%? Yeah, like 90%? Like what? I don't
Okay.
understand that.
So in that, and maybe that's why he sort of at this point said, "Well, all that's a hoax,"
Oh, yeah, yeah, I
and
saw that too.
then I'm firing the head of that because maybe that number
Yeah,
is dictated. And I was looking at it, and so the current administration is looking at the fact that this guy was appointed from the previous
Biden
administration.
administration, yeah.
And so again, that sort of gives that sort of
Sabotage kind of thing is what they
right,
want
that
is what
kind
they
of
want to call it.
mentality
That's like,
in that
hey,
sense.
he's
Yeah, and
doing it on purpose,
right. And
trying
so
to make
when
me
you
look
look at that
bad.
discrepancy in that number
Yeah,
lineup, is that really real? And
yeah,
so I guess maybe the question still stems from what is real and what isn't.
yeah,
You know, are these numbers really truly reflective of what's really going on,
yeah,
or is it something that the current administration feels is sort of to demean what it is that they are saying that is happening in
yeah,
real time?
yeah,
So I think the American people stand sort of in the quandary again as to
yeah.
what is really,
Reality
yeah.
versus actual.
But I heard some folks the other day just talking and having a conversation, and they were saying that now going to the store, they're starting to stress out because they said the budget where they used to be able to, and they're on sort of a fixed income, situation. They said that they were used to go to the store and they could make things work, and they said, well, now it's difficult to keep that budget
Yeah,
and get the things that they once did
yeah.
because the cost of things now
It's
have
more
gone
expensive.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
inflation's
And
still
so,
working. Yeah,
right. So when you
yeah,
hear these kind of numbers and then you see what's going on and then you hear the current administration saying that everything is getting better, you ask yourself the question, you're kind of scratching your head and you're kind of
yeah,
saying, well, what's real? Are the numbers over here real, or are they being inflated from deflated from the previous administration sabotage,
right.
or are we looking at the current administration sort of giving us the blow up of it's getting better and these numbers are not unreal, they're unreal, and that actually is much better than what we're seeing. So
Yeah,
that's kind of the quandary that we're sort of looking at right now, and we don't know where the reality really stands in that.
yeah. I mean, so I've been May in May, June, May. I think I was looking for jobs anyway in
Okay.
that during that time, right?
Right, right.
So just kind of in my research and reading up about what's going on in the job market and things like that. There was a lot of things that were kind of alarming when I was looking
Okay.
for a job.
Okay.
One was that jobs were constantly being reposted, same jobs.
I heard that same thing.
Yeah.
And I saw something posted about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so people were just saying, hey, these are like fake jobs. These are like ghost jobs where they're just up to show that they're just up, but they're
Like
really
there were
not gonna
like there were
hire.
jobs, but they were
They're
really
just jobs, right? They're just open jobs,
okay.
open positions, but they're really not going to hire for them. Or, we hear that, a lot of people were saying that, hey, we're applying to, I applied to 500 jobs and I never had any responses from anybody, like not even just a rejection, right? Because, when you're applying for jobs, you at least want to know, like you're taking the time to submit a resume. Hopefully you're taking the time to tailor the resume, tailor the cover letter, do all those things to try and have an advantage. And then when, an employer doesn't get back to you and say, at least say, hey, sorry, we've regret it or we've gone somewhere else, and I get that too. People are now, especially now, you can get thousands of submissions of applicants and that's a lot to go through. So I get it. Some people, some emails say, hey, fortunately we are not able to respond back and, it is what it is, but that's at least something.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the time.
Right.
But what I found was that it was very hard to find something open. And then, like on job boards and things like LinkedIn, especially like remote positions, those are the top, like everyone wants a remote position now because now no one does it.
Right.
Everyone's saying return to office. You got to go back. You got to be in person. And, when you get like, you have your notifications set up and a job goes up and it's posted for an hour and then you've already got over 100 applicants in that first hour.
Right.
How am I, right? If I put in my application and I'm 200 in or 300 in, what's the likelihood that someone is actually going to take the time to actually look at it? Now they're using AI and all that fun stuff to go through it, but as an employer, I don't want to look at that many. I'll take the first 100, maybe 100, maybe less than 100, maybe the first 50 or 20.
And if they feel like
fit it,
yes, then you just cancel out the rest of it.
Yeah, then that's where you start, right? And then you keep going down and hope
maybe
you
that's
have
what's
somebody
happening
else.
in that. And so, but I heard and I read something, and I think it was either on LinkedIn or it was on a Reddit post, something reflecting that same sort of sentiment about if they were fake jobs or the fake job board or people sort of feeling that that kind of feeling of like, well, I don't believe these are really reflective of what's really going on.
Right.
And again, I think that the current administration is wanting to say that things are getting better. But on the real side over here,
it doesn't feel like
it.
Not at all, 100%. So if you can get a job, you're like, you got to be very, very lucky. Because even if you network,
exactly,
it doesn't matter anymore.
No,
right? Like just because I know you, Harold, doesn't mean that you're going to get me a job at your company.
Not like it used to.
Not like it used to be, right? Where you can come in and say, hey, I know this really good guy who knows his stuff. He's really an expert in this field. He can help us out. I've worked with him. Like now it's like, okay, but I've got 100 other applicants that are more qualified that have been doing it for way longer. Why do I need to give your guy a shot just because you know him? And that sometimes it goes a long way, but not anymore.
No, and I think like people are starting to feel that sort of feeling here, and I think that even now with the current tariffs that just came into focus after the first of this month,
August,
and now people are bracing for another wave of uncertainty, that is hitting not only the pocketbook, but again the job market, because if you don't have the product or it's costing you more, then the companies are trying to figure out how can we cut back on either the workforce in order to be able to do this, in order to be able to sell at a price that people can afford. And people are embracing the fact that they thought at one point, oh, it's going to get better.
Right.
And so I think that the current administration is sort of vacillating in the language that they were using at first, where now they're seeing that, okay, it's not meeting what they originally thought was going to be happening. And people that felt like this direction was going to be fruitful for the country as a whole
Yeah.
are starting to see this kind of, I guess, this feeling of despair in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It kind of is. If
Well, think about it. If
you see all the layoffs too.
Right. I'm saying
Every company is doing layoffs now, not just tech, not just, right. It's like
across
it's
the board.
across the different sectors, different types of businesses. It's not just now IT.
You think about it. Well, we were looking at, and we were talking about in a previous podcast here about ICE,
Yeah.
you know, and sending and deporting all of these the workers that basically were at the bottom of the structure here, holding the country up,
Right.
being deported away from that. So now you're looking at a diminished job market or workforce.
Exactly.
Workforce that basically created the necessities that we depend on daily at the supermarkets.
Right.
And so the supermarkets now are having to charge more for less product. And then on top of that,
Tariffs.
if any of the tariffs on top of that,
There's an
is
extra
starting to
percentage.
drive that. So now you've got people that have lost their jobs, people losing their jobs, people afraid of losing their job now, saying that, well, we can't afford it, we got to tighten our belt. And so then you look at the Fed chairman, he did not lower the interest rates as what he thought, okay, we got to hold this in place. So you're looking at all of these factors that are starting to erode the current administration's expectation.
Yeah.
Their expectation was that we're going to see this rosy job report. And so when that didn't happen, he called for firing the head of that, the economics.
The statistical,
And so in that, now you're looking at it saying, okay, so again, what's really going on? Why are we in this place right now?
Yeah.
The country is kind of shuffling in its position.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the narrative that they're trying to convey, right? Because they're telling the public, the people, you know, people that hear, they're saying, hey, once we do this, you'll see the results. They're going to bring manufacturing back. They're going to, you know, do all this fun stuff. And I think, but what I also think is in the caveat, they also did say, what did they say? It's going to get, you know, it's always going to get harder or worse before it gets better. So I think what they'll do is preempt that and say, hey, we said it was going to get worse, right?
So you being able to use that as
and then
reasoning for that.
Exactly. And then it'll, you know, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And then we'll see what kind of happens with the tariffs as well, because we know that the first is already come and gone, and they're still negotiating with China. They're still they said they were going to hard stop everybody. They're not. We knew this. We knew this was going to happen. So now we'll see how that is going to play into effect, because what are they going to do if they're going to keep going, and they can't keep saying this is somebody else's economy, this is the previous administration's economy?
No, you can only do that so long, and then you realize that you're not doing any better.
That you're doing worse, as a matter of fact. Right?
We're going deeper into
that means you've had a good economy when you inherited a decent economy,
and now
you're the one that's putting it down the drain.
Well, that's not really
for what reason too. Like,
right.
I think that's the other thing. Is I don't understand.
It doesn't want the president doesn't want to focus on anything negative in that capacity. So if it doesn't read out in that lineup, it makes it kind of a disdain for his administration.
Right.
And so there are a lot of factors now that are sort of leading up to that we're actually starting to see. And the American people are now starting to look at this. And the ones that are realizing that we're having to brace for impact, because this is going to really hit, and more than likely, probably a lot harder than anyone really cared to believe. And unfortunately, we're at this place now, because, I mean, look at it. Canada right now, they just recently said they were going to pull back. They were supplying power to part of the U.S. Power grid.
Yep.
And because of the tariffs being laid on them, and especially being that they were an ally of the U.S. and also a neighbor, they were going to pull it back, and they were going to supply it to some other location now.
Yeah. And
so what is that going to do now to the electric power source now that we were actually utilizing from out of Canada, along with other goods and services.
Yeah.
That they're starting to
Domino effect.
We're starting to see that, and then I think that and I read something earlier where they were saying, well, the effect in China was that it was a lot of the companies in China, smaller companies, were affected by the fact that the U.S. tariffs were having an effect on small businesses. And someone on the ground had reported saying, well, yes, it is having the effect of a lot of small businesses that are having to go out of business potentially. But the larger companies are not really necessarily affected by that. And they don't really feel, they absorb it, and they're not even worried about that. So the majority of that is ineffective against China, other than the fact that what's going to come back is that when Christmas and holidays come, the cost of those goods that would typically be holiday affordable are not going to be affordable.
So buy them now before the tariff.
Well,
right?
That's a whole thing. But
you gotta buy it now.
If you're going to do that, buy it out now. You don't have the resources. You don't want to spend that money to do that
because you don't know what's going to happen. Absolutely. You don't know if you're going to have a job.
So what happens is that now the stores are starting to see the fallout all out from that, and eventually, like I said, the upper part of the economy chain is going to start to see the posts that were holding up the structure starting to buckle. And that's the part where I was hoping that if the current administration really was focused on that, they wouldn't be doing necessarily the things to take the pillars out from underneath it, but to restructure it and find a way to restructure it.
Yeah. Well, I don't, again, the May and the June numbers were outrageously high, adjusted lower, right? So the narrative doesn't fit. He was touting, hey, look at all this growth that we have for jobs. Unemployment stayed the same. Unemployment right now is at 4.2%, which is, again, almost the highest it's been since COVID times.
Okay.
Which COVID time, again, his administration was in charge of COVID at the beginning of it, right? And then we changed over to different. So it's just
maybe the American people are ready for this. Maybe because when you think about it, we saw those numbers previously in his administration previously, and they thought, okay, well, that's fine and everything. So now we're getting a chance now to see it up close and again.
We'll see.
And now there are other factors that are involved in here other than what was involved at that time. We weren't necessarily looking at the diminish of the folks that basically, kept the fruits and vegetables and things on the table that we were able to afford at that time. Now you're starting to see that. And that was one of the other things in a conversation that I had with the person that was, talking about it, said, well, they, shop at different locations, and they said that they had gone into Target, which was kind of interesting. I heard this person say that they saw the emptiness on the shelves and was sort of like looking for the products that they used to find, and the cost of things had gone up of the products, but they were saying the store shelves were starting to become, empty. And that goes back to the statement that I was saying earlier, is that, it's the fallout is yet to come, and we're starting to see it trickle upward now. The lower income level is having a real tough time, and now you're starting to see it permeate into the middle income level, which is the workforce of this nation, meaning that a lot of the resources and income that has been driving the country as a whole comes from the middle of the income level here. So when you start to see no jobs in that, and people that have been in that category now having a tough time, what do you think is going to, happen further up the chain? Because it starts, instead of trickle down economics, it used to be that it's trickling up.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have any faith in any trickle nothing. So
well,
it's like, I get it. I think this is, again, 4 years. He's going to do damage. 2 years. 2 years, he won't have control. He doesn't care.
Well, so
he's making money. He's making money for his friends. I think that's the goal right now. Okay. Right. So
So what
I
happens
just I hate
when
that.
you have all of this? You have your billionaires that basically, have these resources. Where do you take it when you have a country that is broken, that no longer has the ability to produce? Because you've got to have food.
Oh yeah,
Okay, so where are you going to get that from? If you got tariffs that are against the countries that are outside that can produce and do have the workforce producing that, but this country no longer has that workforce that produces the basics, then what happens then?
but the rich people can afford it.
Well, so
That's the problem.
then you start to see chaos, and then
Right.
you say, okay, what happens at that point?
Yeah.
And so that's where the concerns of people now kind of looking at this
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
watching it erode something that
Right.
has never been experienced in this country before.
Yeah.
And I think people are kind of now kind of feel like the alarms are going off, and no one's really adhering to that. Not even the current administration is hearing what is down on the ground level,
Well,
as if they really don't care.
They don't care.
You know,
They don't. I mean, that's
and
well, that's the
well,
bottom line. They don't care.
so that's what people are starting to feel that
Right.
in my conversation on both sides of the fence.
Right.
I hear kind of that same sort of thing now, and some folks are saying, "Well, I'm not certain if what I voted for is actually happening."
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think we're starting to see that kind of
I
thing
just
that's
hope
going on.
I just hope that it doesn't break apart so bad, right? That it becomes something, right? Because like,
Well, it's going to
what's
be
the point of government?
Well, it's going to be one person put it, and I heard him saying, I didn't listen to the whole story on it, but he said that it's going to be very difficult, even if you were to turn it around now.
Yep.
It's going to take, maybe a generation or so
Exactly.
before it even starts to come back to what we once had it,
Right.
which is alarming because
It
you
wasn't
kind of
that
think that
early, yeah. It's
where
like-
we are right now, you means that we're not going to see ourselves back at least at the 0 point where we were before, even though we thought we were not doing very well.
Yeah.
And now we're at a point where it really is showing that we're not doing very well. And
Right.
now on the global stage, you got other countries that are basically saying we can pull back and let them do it themselves,
Yeah.
and we don't really
We'll
have
be
to
fine.
have them.
Right.
And that becomes now where it becomes scary
Yeah.
for the American overall.
Yeah.
Anyone that really cares anything about the country. You start to think, well, how have we come to this place?
Right. I know.
Anyways,
It's crazy.
another topic that is hot and heavy in the news here is the situation over in Gaza.
Mm.
That right there is kind of alarming, and I know we don't think a lot of about it too much over here in this end, because we got so much going on in chaotic situations in our country as it is. But the impact of these folks over in Gaza is becoming a humanitarian crisis. And it's happening right in front of our face. And you ask sort of, how is this when we have there's so much food there has been
aid. So it's all the aid that's been given. Yeah.
But it's not
distributed.
Getting
it's not getting distributed.
And so we're watching people perish in front of our face on the camera, and you can see them. They're in a desperate state now that they're fighting each other to just for any morsel of food, which is really a sad state for humanity. And I know we have places in this world where famine is rampant.
Yeah.
But and it comes back again to us as a fairly wealthy country, cutting off aid to sort of help countries in need. And so we turn to ourselves and ask a question: Why are we going to stand out and do this? And I think that as a nation, we once stood as compassionate, even though we were strong in our military objectives. We stood compassionate because the freedoms that we all sort of embraced, in this nation. So I'm looking at Gaza now and saying, well, why is it that, the peace that we thought was going to happen and that they could structure this and help these folks that are living in, the zone is completely devastated. It's like no place to really live. And now, no food, and now you're watching people
Well, they're in
die.
war. They're in war.
And
it's like They don't have the resources.
They don't have the resources, and Israel right now is not backing down from that, and
Right.
and you're watching this group called Hamas, who basically is keeping it, bringing it on to the people, so that way they can make a point to say, look at what they're doing. And so it seems that the world is falling right into that trap, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we're probably no different in this nation here to sort of broker that peace, as we once thought was going to be relegated, and now and we now are seeing the fallout, and so we're standing back, sort of with a gasp on our face. The ones that really care about humanity, in a sense, are standing with a gasp on their face. Others are kind of like, well, hey, it's not our affair, it's not our business, and unless it's in our face,
Yeah.
and affecting us right away. But what we don't realize is that it does come back to you.
Yeah.
It's just down the road.
Yeah, it's so it is. Just quickly for us, I'm doing research on it's Red Cross, who I'm getting these numbers from. 470,000 people in Gaza face starvation.
470,000?
That's 22% of their population.
22%, wow.
It says people are being treated for severe malnutrition. Women, especially women, pregnant women, elderly, and children are being treated there. And then, of course, like you mentioned, months where aid was not able to enter. This is now turning into a humanitarian crisis, where up to 470,000 people face starvation. So can you imagine 470,000, half a million people?
What do you do with all the people that perish in that capacity there?
I don't know, but it's heartbreaking. It's all over social media, and again, you were talking about Hamas, you're talking about Israel. It's like they're at war. We get it, but this is a humanitarian crisis. These are people that are innocent.
Right.
They're caught in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Just they need food. They need to eat. They're facing death, certain death, if they don't get this. And it's just, again, it's this play of Hamas not letting him in, but Israel's blocking. And, now we can point fingers and say, well, it's him, it's her, it's whoever.
But in the meantime,
versus who suffers, just like the economy in America, right? Yeah. Who suffers? The middle class, the lower class.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing. It's just they're using real life.
Right. Well, we haven't seen it come to our doorstep yet.
Not yet.
Like this.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the course that we're on, it really sort of starts to make you wonder.
Yeah.
What are we looking at? I mean, if we're looking at countries now say, well, you know what, maybe we won't trade with the U.S. and we'll trade with others in the network, but not with the U.S. And so now we're looking at who's going to, provide those. Well, you know what Harold, I mean?
According to our administration, we are going to provide for ourselves, right?
Oh, okay. So we're going to start our own.
We're going to start picking all the crops.
Okay.
We're going to, me and you, we can go out there. We can be perfect examples, shining stars.
Out there to pick.
Picking whatever we need to pick.
With
growing our own vegetables and fruits, and, raising our own cattle and chickens, and, we're going to be self-sufficient, is what we said, right?
Okay.
Okay. I mean,
that's
we can do that instantly.
That seems realistic to me.
Right?
Yeah, it seems realistic.
I think,
I just, I'm thinking that's where we're headed, and I'm thinking, well, we might need to get farm equipment and so on. And now
I'm saving up for a tractor, by the way.
You got to have a tractor. If you don't have
backhoe, a tractor, and all this other stuff.
We need seed, so we got to get seed in order to grow that, and then we got to focus on water supply, irrigation, exactly. You and I both were just talking about. You got to be able to have that, and right now with the weather cycles going on, I mean, we are looking
we got to wait. I know we're being sarcastic, but we got to wait. Maybe there's some people are playing with the weather too, so we got to be careful.
I've heard that conspiracy theory in a sense, but
we got to be careful.
Is that real? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So no, see, we're playing around, but but
all of these things.
But this is exactly how this is how we feel towards where we're going, right? It's like this is what they want. This is what we'll have to do.
Yeah, well,
but is it realistic?
Well, in a realistic sense, if you look at the diminished, the farmers are having a tough time, even in this country, producing enough food to really, because their hands kind of are tied, with the cost of getting it to market once they've grown their crops, to have someone, harvesting their crops.
There's a lot of subsidies too that I'm sure the government provides, right?
Well,
for these things.
They're trying to cut back on all of these things, right?
Exactly.
And then on top of that, we've seen the diminish in our education. So we're not seeing ourselves being educated to try to meet the objectives for the 21st and 22nd century.
Yeah.
We should be already looking at the 22nd century, trying to prepare for that.
What's next?
While in the 21st century.
Yeah.
And we're cutting back our ability to educate ourselves on that. And so we're seeing the colleges fighting lawsuits that are against the administration over it started out
funding,
with DEI, Fund DEI, taking that from DEI, saying that, okay. And so we're seeing ourselves divide, again, in this. And so we're looking at Gaza and saying, well, that's over there. It's not over here.
It's a world away from us.
But we said that we said that with COVID.
Oh, well, yeah.
We said that with COVID, and we looked at it and we thought, okay, well, that's over in China. And it's crazy. But I was looking at that, and when they were wearing those hazmat suits, I'm thinking, oh my God,
it's coming.
That is not looking good.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, and everybody said it's a world away. And I remember in the office, when I was there in the office, they said, well, yeah, it's not that. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure about that, because we got a scare back when Ebola.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
If you remember Ebola.
Yep.
And then before we realized that they were the World Health Organization was trying to cut that down. And we said the same thing about COVID, but COVID came in on both sides of the
crap
country.
Out of everyone.
And it started to move fast, and quickly. We were not ready for it.
So fast.
So the same thing as we're looking at here in Gaza. We're saying, okay, it's over there. And, it's nothing that bothers us, but it does.
Yeah.
And we look at famine in Africa, and we say, well, that's a world away. It's doesn't. But in places like Italy, where they're having tough time now growing the crops that they used to have, they're having drought conditions. And again, we say, well, it's global warming. No, some people say, well, that it's not. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
And then to sort of end this out, if you remember, we had a big earthquake few days ago.
The tsunami that triggered all the tsunami worldwide.
It did.
Worldwide.
It shook. I thought it said something like it
was one of the largest
7 continents.
And it was one of the largest, like top 10 largest earthquakes ever recorded. So not ever, but ever recorded.
Yes. And so when you look at that, it was 8.8 is what I remember seeing that 8.8.
That's crazy.
Yes. And I thought at one point, well, we were at 7 point something, and now it's 8.8, almost a 9.
Almost a 9.
And so, and they were saying the activity. And I don't know if you remember, just a couple days ago, we had a
small one.
Yes.
Small is relative, right? We're California, or something. 4.6 or something, 4.6 or something. Small for us.
I heard it coming.
Yeah, that's what
the crazy part. I was telling my wife at the time. I said I was sitting up there looking at the tsunami on my phone, when all of a sudden I hear this rumbling, and I'm thinking, okay, what is that? A truck coming? And all of a sudden you hear it, and then the whole house shook and everything. Yeah. I thought, oh my gosh, earthquake! And then it popped up on my phone there, and I thought I was just looking at the tsunami from the earthquake in Russia. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways,
earthquakes.
Yes,
all around. And I'm sure that earthquakes all around all the time, but for the ones we feel, the ones we actually feel. And we're kind
of wondering what's the next one. We've always for years been talking about the San Andreas Fault.
Oh yeah, but they make movies about them, TV series, like everything about it.
But anyway. In any case, on our next podcast, we'll come back with some more.
Yeah, and we'll leave some links here, on this humanitarian stuff if you do want to donate.
Yes,
Red Cross, things like that. We just anything that you could do would help.
We'd love to hear from you too. Any good deeds that are going about that someone is doing, because we definitely need really some
kindness in the world, man.
Some goodness to focus on here. So
and follow us on
until next time. Follow us.
Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok.
He's got them all. All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.